Have you ever wondered how the Palestine conflict, a dispute that has shaped the geopolitics of the Middle East, began? It all traces back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries, with the rise of Zionism. This was a movement advocating for the establishment of a Jewish state in what was then known as Palestine, a region under Ottoman rule. The Zionist dream gained significant traction with the Balfour Declaration of 1917, where Britain, in control of Palestine post-World War I, expressed support for a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. However, this was not without controversy. For the Arab locals, the influx of Jewish immigrants sparked fears of displacement and loss of cultural identity. Tensions between the two groups began to simmer, fueled by a sense of mutual mistrust and resentment. This period of political upheaval and migration planted the seeds of the conflict we know today. Thus, the seeds of the Palestine conflict were sown during this period of political upheaval and migration. So, how did the State of Israel come into being, and what was the response of the Arab states? To understand this, we need to go back to the year 1947. The United Nations created a partition plan, aiming to divide the British Mandate of Palestine into two separate states, one Jewish and one Arab. However, this plan was met with rejection from the Arab states. Despite this, in 1948, the State of Israel was proclaimed, marking a significant moment in history. This declaration wasn't met with open arms by the Arab states. In fact, it sparked outrage, leading to the First Arab-Israeli War. The Arab states, unwilling to accept the partition plan and the creation of Israel, launched a military campaign against the newly formed nation. It was a tumultuous time, marked with intense fighting and great loss. The 1948 war ended with an armistice, but it was just the beginning of a series of conflicts. The Arab-Israeli conflict didn't end with a peace treaty, but rather a ceasefire. This marked the beginning of a complex and ongoing struggle that has spanned over 7 decades and continues to shape the Middle East to this day. Fast forward to 1967, a year that marked a significant turning point in the Palestine conflict. But why? This was the year of the Six-Day War, a brief but intense conflict that saw Israel square off against Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. In a stunning display of military prowess, Israel seized control of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, lands previously held by Egypt and Jordan, respectively. This marked the beginning of Israel's occupation of these territories, an issue that remains contentious today. But the story doesn't end there. Israel's occupation of Gaza and the West Bank was followed by a wave of settlement activities. Israeli citizens began to establish communities within these territories, a move that was and continues to be viewed by many as a direct violation of international law. The international response to these activities was mixed. While some nations chose to condemn Israel's actions, others remained silent or even supportive. This variance in international response further complicated an already complex situation. The Six-Day War dramatically altered the landscape of the Middle East, leaving a legacy of issues that continue to fuel the conflict. In the face of occupation, the Palestinians resisted. But what shape did their resistance take, and how did the world respond? The First Intifada, a grassroots uprising against Israeli occupation, started in the late 1980s. This saw Palestinians, armed largely with stones, engage in widespread civil disobedience. Simultaneously, diplomatic efforts were underway. The Oslo Accords, signed in the mid-90s, marked a significant step towards peace, establishing a framework for future negotiations. However, the accords fell short of resolving core issues, leaving many Palestinians dissatisfied. The Camp David summit in 2000 was a further attempt at peace. Despite U.S. mediation, the talks collapsed, leading to the Second Intifada. This uprising was more violent, with suicide bombings and military actions causing significant casualties on both sides. The failure of these peace initiatives gave rise to Hamas, a more militant group, further complicating the peace process. The peace process has been fraught with failures and setbacks, leading to a stalemate that continues to this day. So, where do we stand today in the Palestine conflict? The current state of the conflict is complex, to say the least. The West Bank and Gaza Strip, two territories at the heart of this dispute, are under different leaderships. Hamas controls Gaza, while the Palestinian Authority governs parts of the West Bank. This division, among other factors, complicates the peace process. Hamas, often in the international spotlight for its militant activities, is considered a terrorist organization by many countries. The Palestinian Authority, on the other hand, has gained recognition from several nations, but struggles with issues of corruption and governance. Recent events have further escalated tensions. Pro-Palestine student groups at Columbia University were suspended, sparking controversy and highlighting the sensitive nature of this conflict abroad. Moreover, the killing of Bilal Jadallah, a prominent Gazan journalist, underscores the dangerous conditions in which many Palestinians live daily. The international stance on the conflict varies, with nations divided in their support for Israel and Palestine, further fueling the dispute. The Palestine conflict remains unresolved, with both sides locked in a cycle of violence and retaliation. But the hope for a peaceful resolution persists, despite the complexities of this long-standing dispute.